Secular Yakking, Episode 77, Freedom, November 29th, 2016.
I would defend the freedom of speech. And why? Because no attack can be answered by force. No argument can be refuted by a blow, or by imprisonment, or by fine. You may imprison the man, but the argument is free. You may fell the man to the earth, but the statement stands. Robert Green Ingersoll.
Inconceivable!
Will you please act like you have more than a two-word vocabulary?
Is there air? You don't know!
Hey, don't touch that dial. You found Secular Yakking.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Amy.
After years,
No, many years of yakking at each other.
we're here to yak at you.
So sit back and enjoy the yakking.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful week. I know I did.
Are you still saying that?
I am still saying that
After all this time?
after all this time. And if you haven't noticed, my wonderful wife, Amy, is back with us.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah, and Tom is off doing Tom things, so he'll be back in a couple weeks. So Amy decided to
Yeah,
nicely to fill in for him.
yeah, that's what Amy did, sure.
There was no coercion by me at all.
No, not at all.
And we also have Kerri,
Hi.
just talkative as usual.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
All right.
All right, on with the show, please.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll start with our normal stuff, Twitter.
Yeah, it's normal.
So, we have intellectual saviors, Adam Borchardt.
Oh, you're still butchering things.
Yeah.
That didn't change.
Ali Akbar, Rodney, Tunga, cartoonist Arif, maybe, Barely Audible, Facts Not Faith, Ready Rock D, with a fist and a fire. That's what it says. Bible Ministries, they're going to have fun with this. Steve Weston, Deity Free, and Josh Adams.
So, quite a few.
Yeah, we've been getting quite a few lately.
Yeah, and you still tend to butcher their names, so hopefully they're okay with that.
Not as bad as some weeks.
Uh-huh.
Really?
That's all I get out of her this week. All right.
One syllable, one word.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, any stories this week? Anybody got anything good?
I don't know. In English, we're learning words that have that are like
You're learning words.
Words in English. Well, that's generally where you learn words, yes.
No, like humanism and stuff like that.
In English?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, nice.
Wasn't that the same place you did that sermon
I have
a couple
all
weeks
of
ago?
my stories in English.
The microphone's up there, child.
Uh-huh.
There you
It's
go.
not over here at me. It's over there.
That's much better.
Yeah. Less editing, the better. Thank you. Amy, do you have any stories that you want us to share? Because we've started doing stories since you last were on.
Oh, are you now?
Yes.
Not likely.
Fine. I have one.
I ran away and I'm back.
Yeah. I sort of have a story.
Okay.
It's actually a new project of mine.
Oh, another one.
Yeah, like I don't have enough.
No, not in the least.
I have started or restarted an old project I did a couple years ago,
Okay.
which was rereading all of Robert Green Ingersoll's essays and speeches.
Oh, yeah, I remember when you were doing that.
Well, I've decided to start doing it again.
That's good, because you really like that.
Yeah. I created a website and a separate podcast for it called Ingersoll Revisited.
Okay.
Very creative.
Yes, I thought it was too.
It's kind of what he usually picks.
Yeah.
I like easy names.
Oh, that's an understatement.
So yeah, it's going to be a bi-weekly release. That way I don't have to work too hard at it.
Yeah, because you got like 8 million things
Well,
going on already.
That and some of the speeches are like an hour and a half long.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
That's going to take some time.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, I've got 5 recorded. One really long one, which was the Thanksgiving sermon I released last week.
Uh-huh.
And then a couple more that I've recorded over the weekend.
Oh, okay. This is why I don't ever see you.
Well, if you did the show more often, you would.
Oh, please.
So that'll be fun. Look for that on IngersollRevisited.com. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, all the cool places.
Yeah, Ingersoll always has really cool things to say.
Yeah.
Or had.
Yeah. Well, we do a quote of him every week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. So you can obviously tell I don't listen.
Yeah, you don't even listen to the show.
I didn't listen when I was on it either. It just sounds weird.
I still don't.
Yeah, I can't listen to myself. It's just weird.
Fine, don't listen to the show you're on. Whatever, I don't care.
Never did before.
That's not like a ringing endorsement for the show, you know.
Well, I don't like listening to myself. What can I tell you?
All right, fine.
My name is Jonathan Ariola of TDTF Pod. The more voices you hear, the more we observe and feel, the more we learn about the other facets of this complex and wondrous beast that is humanism and free thought. Join me on the science-loving journey through topics like justice, murder, family, diligence, taste, history, society, race, boob jobs, law, addiction, video games, fear, sacrifice, children. Wait, not sacrificing children, that's not what I meant. Bring the popcorn and watch me break down the issues too deep, too fast. Join me at TDTF Pod. I'm Jonathan Ariola. Talk to you soon.
We'll move on to the news.
Let's do that.
An Indiana man accused of not paying more than $1,000 in state income taxes says he can't be found guilty of tax evasion because he is protected by Indiana's Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
No, that's a stretch.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I'm gonna say for that aspect, they could claim religious anything for anything they want to do in that case.
Rodney Times Bay, who argues that paying his state taxes imposes a burden on his religious belief, is the latest to use Indiana's law to justify an alleged crime. Earlier this year, an Indianapolis mother accused of beating her son used this law unsuccessfully to justify punishing the child.
See what I mean?
Right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
This is the law signed by Governor Mike Pence last year.
Oh, boy.
VP-elect Mike Pence.
Yeah, sure. That's all he is.
Yeah, it says the government must first prove compelling interest before it intrudes on someone's sincerely held religious beliefs, and it must do so with the least restrictive way.
No, wait. Run that by me again?
It has to prove that the government has to prove that it has a compelling interest, which means it has to prove that it has something to do with the action, right? The act, by prohibiting this person or making them do this particular thing, the government is seeing a benefit from it. Right? So I don't think he really has a case.
No.
Because taxes are what the government does.
Yeah.
So they have a compelling interest. And it's the least restrictive way for them to do it. It's not like they're coming to his house and taking his money.
Yeah, like in, the old cartoon Robin Hood when they used to come to the door and you had to pay taxes. If not, they hauled you off to the jail.
This income tax is taken directly from his paycheck.
Right.
Whatever, right.
Right.
The problem is SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, ruled on this years ago.
Oh, we keep repeating history, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, there was an Amish gentleman who said he shouldn't have to pay Social Security taxes because his religious belief says that's some sort of weird thing. I'm not sure what it is. But the Supreme Court said, yes, you must pay income taxes because he was making stuff and selling it. So he had to sell this. He had to make Social Security taxes, even though he wasn't necessarily going to benefit from Social Security benefits.
Right.
Part of the loss.
Right.
Silence.
I'm just listening.
All right.
She's learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a frustrating thing there.
I find it ridiculous, honestly.
It's a frivolous lawsuit. He's never going to win it.
No, it's just, once again, just trying to see if he can get out of something by claiming his religious freedom crap.
Well, this is just an extension of what we said would happen with the RFRA law. It was originally intended to be against LGBT, to allow people to discriminate.
Right.
That's basically what it was intended for. But now it's being used for other things, and they don't like it too much when they do that.
Yeah.
So it should go away soon. In fact, this will probably strike down the RFRA law.
Oh,
Yeah. If it goes to the Supreme Court, they'll just completely strike it down.
You think it would go that far?
I doubt it. It's already been turned down in one court.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Probably nothing.
Has In God We Trust invaded your town? Are you tired of government officials who want to plaster In God We Trust on taxpayer-owned property? Are you afraid because your local sheriff placed an In God We Trust decal on the patrol cars? We are here to help. The original motto project is for those who feel the separation of church and state is an important issue and should be honored regardless of your belief or lack thereof. Theists, non-theists, and all free thinkers are welcome. We need your support to show politicians that diversity exists within our nation, and their promotion of a monotheistic religion and push for theocracy will not be tolerated. Stand up and be heard. Join us at originalmodel.us.
Our next story is a little more interesting
Okay.
because that one wasn't interesting at all, right? Yeah. I titled it, Why Doesn't Daddy Wear Makeup?
Okay.
Okay.
Don't know where you're going with this, but okay.
A Christian homeschooling mother posted an article on a homeschool website stating that she was upset that her 6-year-old son was subjected to a controversial commercial on TV.
Really? That's her only complaint?
Well, it's what was on the commercial.
Okay.
It was CoverGirl's newest cover person from their magazine.
Oh, okay.
And that cover person is James Charles, a high school senior male.
I haven't seen this commercial.
Well, we don't do
I was
TV.
going to say, then again, we don't really do television, so.
So this is the first time a male has been featured on the magazine cover.
Uh-huh.
And this was for the eyelash
Yeah.
thing, right?
CoverGirl.
Yeah.
Mascara.
Yeah. That's what it's for, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So she's upset because now she has to answer the question of, why is that boy wearing makeup?
Really?
Yeah, he's a high school senior.
So basically, she just doesn't like the fact that he might not be the typical straight, people of her circle, I guess you could say.
Well, she went over the things that she would tell him,
Okay.
right? But she decided to tell him the quote-unquote truth,
Okay.
which was, that's the way his mommy and daddy chose to raise him, but that's not the way we're choosing to raise you.
Oh, that's an interesting response.
But that's not how it works.
Well, how does it work, Kerri?
But you can't, that's not, you can't.
Full sentences would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, but people like to listen to actual sentences.
Well, you know what?
That's not the answer. Now, what are you
But-
saying?
Like, you can't just raise someone to either be non-straight or, well, not just that, just to wear makeup in general.
Yeah, I was going to say, this isn't a straight gay issue. This is a
Yeah.
makeup, not makeup issue.
Well, I mean, she said.
Well,
Mom
you
said
know she's
straight,
taking
but,
it
like,
there.
Obviously
yeah,
she is.
Lots of my friends who are straight, who are guys, wear makeup just to prove that point, which is great.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
always say how you thought that was cool that they do that.
Yeah. So, my issue with this is the answer should have been, some boys like to wear makeup, some boys don't.
That would have been the straight, easy, honest answer.
And most kids would have been like, oh, okay, cool.
And drop the subject.
Pretty much. But now she's worried she is having to filter his TV and scared about what he may be seeing at his friend's house and expecting bigger questions.
So she just wants to avoid the complicated world outside her door. Is
Pretty much.
what she's looking for, yeah.
Because maybe her son will like makeup. Who knows?
That's what she's afraid of, I bet.
Well, according to her, she believes that the parents are the ones that turn their children into liking opposite sex type of stereotypical crap.
Right. Well, she obviously believes that it's a choice.
Well, and that, yes, absolutely. But
I mean, foundation can make jawlines pretty strong. I don't know. Just saying.
So how would I apply foundation on my beard?
Look it up.
Okay, I'm sure there's
shave it off.
a tutorial somewhere. Well, she ends the post with this. It is a shame that we can't take our eyes off our son for a single second. Thank God we homeschool.
Well, obviously it didn't help her because she's not happy with what he saw.
That poor kid.
No, so is her philosophy to lock him in the house forever? Because she doesn't like the idea of him.
She doesn't want him questioning things.
Well,
is what I
right.
read.
She doesn't want him going outside the door to other people's homes or the environment in general and seeing things that might make him start questioning. And not only will she have to answer questions, she'll have to think of ways to answer it in the way she wants it answered. And the fact that he's even thinking outside the home box in the first place. So that's just how I see it.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but, if I was that kid, I'd probably rebel and escape and run away a lot.
Well, he
He's
probably
6.
will. He
Well,
probably will eventually.
Give him time.
Yeah. He probably will. But yeah, I totally would try and run away all the time if that was me.
That's not very encouraging, Kerri. But yes, it is sad though.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever wondered what it's like to be a redneck with empathy? Have you never heard of a Southerner who isn't a blathering bigot? Well, have I got the show for you? It's the Podunk Polymath Podcast, hosted by myself, Chris, and it's the sentiments of a secular, sarcastic, screwed-up Southerners JW and skeptic. You can find me and the show on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or your favorite podcatcher. Y'all stop on by and take it easy now, okay?
With us today is Jennifer Goulet. She is the co-founder and president of the Tri-City Freethinkers and former candidate for state representative. She also sits on the board of Planned Parenthood of Greater Washington and North Idaho. Welcome to Secular Yakking, Jennifer.
Hi.
It is great to have you here. I've actually been wanting to do this for a while, but we just haven't had the right opportunities. So I guess we'll get into why you're here. What I'd like to start with is the issue with Arlene's Flowers. Some of our listeners remember when we talked about it last year.
Mm-hmm.
But could you give us a little history on what's going on with that?
Right. A few years ago, a florist in Richland declined to sell wedding flowers to a gay couple, Kurt Freed and Rob Ingersoll. And it was, she cited because of her relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's now become one of the legal battles going on around the country. She had the attorneys from the Alliance Defending Freedom come in to take up her case, and the ACLU sued on behalf of Kurt and Rob. And so she lost in, I believe it was at the Superior Court level, lost her case, and then they've just recently had the oral arguments in the Washington State Supreme Court case. They're hoping the long plan would be to get this to go to the United States Supreme Court to get Washington State's anti-discrimination laws reversed. Is right. One of the believed aims of this.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. That's kind of frustrating, the way that they're working this angle on this.
Right. Very.
So I know that you just dealt with some local ordinances dealing with this
yeah.
case. So let's go all the way back to last summer, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when we gave John Trumbo a Potter Award in episode 10 for this very thing.
Right. And when Trumbo got that Potter Award, it was actually the second time he had brought that up in Kennewick City Council. The first time they wouldn't bring it up for a vote, and the second time they let it come up for a vote just to get him to quit complaining that, well, you didn't even let us vote on it. And it got voted against 6-1. So that one pretty spectacularly failed in Kennewick. At that same time, Councilman Bob Hoffman in Pasco brought up the same resolution over here in Pasco. And that one didn't end up coming up for a vote then. And he just brought up a new one here 2 or 3 weeks ago, worded a bit differently, slightly different angle, but basically the same general sentiment behind it. And this one went a little bit further.
Right. So what's the more, if you can summarize the wording on that a little bit, would be, if you have that.
Yeah, well, I actually have the whole resolution here in front of me, but I will just kind of get right down to the very end of it, because it's, got a whole bunch of whereas, because it's actually not an ordinance, for one. You referred to it as an ordinance.
Oh, it's a resolution.
It's a resolution, right?
That's right, yeah. Oddly enough, I get those confused.
Yeah. So the way it was originally written, it was saying 2 parts, that the city council supports the constitutional rights of the citizens of the city of Pasco and state of Washington, the right to believe and practice their religious beliefs, and urge governmental agencies to be protective of these fundamental rights, and in the balance of conflict may be given substantial deference intended by the forefathers of this nation. But then the really bad one was the part 2 of that. It says that the city of Pasco hereby supports Arlene Flowers in its defense of the case presently pending before the Washington State Supreme Court. So while it had been worded in a way that people would be like, okay, yeah, that, kind of makes sense. The intent of it was very clear by having that in there. And there was some other language too, which I don't recall off the top of my head, that set off the red flags, and especially given that this guy has tried this before a year ago.
Right. So, yeah, it's very interesting, this resolution, because it's basically it's not really giving them a free pass, but it's saying the city's not going to really do anything about it, right?
Right.
That's kind of how I read it.
Yeah, they don't have any weight of law in a resolution, unlike an ordinance or anything like that. But what the aim is, because these things are happening all over the country, it's not just here. And what they would like to do, well, let me back up and just say that when he proposed this resolution this time was on the very night before the oral arguments over on the west side in the Arlene's Flowers case.
Right, and I watched the oral arguments live, and that was interesting as well. I did some tweeting for that. So.
Oh, all right. So what they had hoped to do was to get this passed that night. But the interesting thing is that was a workshop meeting where they legally can't take any vote because the public would have had no opportunity to hear anything about it or make any kind of public comment. So in that workshop meeting, he actually turns and asks the attorney, can we go ahead and vote on this tonight? And the attorney gives him this look and he's like, no. So he was obviously a little disappointed that he couldn't just rush this through and had to wait for a week. But what he had wanted to do was be able to send word to the court date saying, well, the Pasco City supports Baronel Stutzman. And what the goal is with these happening all over the country is they want to get these cities on board saying that they support it, so that then those cities can put pressure on the state legislatures to either not pass anti-discrimination laws protecting LGBT people where they don't have them, or to get exemptions in the laws for religious persons, or to just completely overturn those anti-discrimination laws. So it may seem to some that this is a harmless, little thing, but there's a longer term goal that's behind all of this.
Right. Let me ask you this, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Is there an organization that's pushing this? Is there someone who's like a larger, like AFA or somebody like that?
I'm not sure how many of them kind of work together directly and intentionally, but I know that Joseph Backholm of the Family Policy Institute, I think that's what they're called, Family Policy, or maybe it's Family Research Institute. Yeah.
Yeah.
He drafted the first one that came out a year ago. That one was going to multiple small governments. And then this one, Bob Hoffman claims it was not written by Joseph Backholm or by that organization. He claims he wrote it, but we know that the original push for this is coming from outside of the organizations, outside of the local government bodies, I mean.
Right. Yeah. Generally, stuff like this it's very rare that something of this nature comes directly from government bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't, most politicians just don't think this way.
Right. And I have no doubt that there are, communications going on between organizations like the Family Research Institute or Policy, I'm blanking which one it is, and the Alliance Defending Freedom, all of these organizations with these similar goals working together behind the scenes.
Right. So then we had the meeting the next week, right?
Right. So 1 week later, we had heard that there were going to be about 300 people supporting passing the resolution that were going to show up. This was conversation overheard in the hallway, by the way, that Bob Hoffman himself was speaking in the hallway and didn't realize that he was being overheard. So they were bringing in people apparently from outside the area to fill the city council chamber. And they were going to be wearing the red flowers that they wear whenever they go to support Arlene's Flowers. And so I started mobilizing people to come and speak against the resolution. And we had over 200 people there. And interestingly, it seemed almost none were there in support of the resolution. There were a few, but they were vastly outnumbered, which was a beautiful thing.
That is interesting. So, yeah, I really wanted to go, but Pasco's a little far for me to go on a weeknight. So.
Yeah. And with snow on the passes probably as well.
Yeah, probably. So that's just not going to happen.
Well, luckily, there's video footage of it on Facebook.
There is. So how did that turn out?
Well, what they ended up doing was voting on whether or not to vote on it, which was kind of a neat little trick. But there were at least two people. There were two people who were very strongly opposed to the resolution. And it's because of one of those people that I found out about it in the first place, because if I hadn't gotten a call one night, I would have not realized what was happening.
Right.
And so there were two city council members who were strongly for the resolution, and we knew that there was no way that their minds were going to be changed. But there were two who were, potentially going to, we'd be able to change their mind with enough convincing and reasonable arguments and pressure, basically. And so the idea was to kind of give them an out. And I'm not saying this is my idea. I'm not going to say whose idea it was. Mm-hmm. But by saying that that we're going to vote to not vote on it at all was a way to get them gracefully out of having to vote for it and still not having to face the ugly backlash that they might expect from the religious right people here locally for actually taking a stand to vote against it. But either way, the outcome was good because it meant it didn't pass. It didn't get voted on and all. They voted 5 against 2 to not vote on it.
Well, that's very interesting. Yeah, it's actually a ploy used by legislatures and governmental bodies all over the place to get around being an unpopular vote.
Well, see, that was a new one to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way the filibuster works. It's a very similar thing. Mm-hmm. So the filibuster is literally a vote to vote.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what happened. There was a little mini.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. I learn something every day.
Yeah. It's pretty common with Robert's Rules of Orders and all that weird legislative stuff.
Mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, pretty much. You really got to dig deep to get into that kind of stuff. But it's a political ploy, which is interesting on its own. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So
right, I could see how it could be bad, but in this instance, like I say, I'm just glad that it didn't come up for a vote because it almost certainly would have passed then in that
right.
case. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely this was the better outcome. No one got hurt, and there's no precedent set.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Glad to hear that. But you don't just do city council defenses and stuff like that. You do other things as well.
I do. I keep pretty busy. You know that I recently ran for state representative, for example, which is probably the biggest thing I've ever done.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't win, but considering I live in the most red part of the entire state, I think I did pretty gosh darn well with getting a... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, you made it past the primary, so...
I did, which in itself is pretty remarkable. Also running as, an openly atheist candidate in this deep red territory. And it was 6 counties in my legislative district, and I got 33% overall, which also for a first-time candidate is pretty good. I got a fairly larger percentage of the vote than previous Democrats who've tried to run.
Well, that is encouraging.
Yeah. And I don't think any Democrats won in Eastern Washington at all. So what I see is encouragement from that. I think that the last person who ran as a Democrat here got 28% and I got 33%. And I want to point out that in Whitman County, which is in the 9th legislative district and where WSU is in Pullman, I got 46% of the vote.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was just a couple of the really rural counties that dragged me back because I got like 20-something%. So I have encouragement because if I was able to get 33% and the previous person who ran as a Democrat got 28%, that's a pretty big jump. That shows to me a demographic shift happening. So it's definitely worth pursuing again, I think, in a couple of years.
Yeah. And you were running against a fairly entrenched incumbent, right?
Well, she was an incumbent, but I wouldn't say so much entrenched. She'd actually only been in office for, I think, not even quite 2 years because she was originally appointed because the person in office before her had to resign in some sort of a ethics or financial scandal. And so she got appointed, and then they had a special election where she actually got officially elected in a special election. But she was definitely firmly establishment, very well funded by large corporations. I was initially I was being outspent 10-1. By the end, I got it narrowed down to about 6-1. But I was still being vastly outspent.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the problems with the local politics. Yeah, it's really hard to get funding going, especially for like first timers. So.
Well, and she would accept the money from corporations, and I didn't. I actually turned away donation from business. It was going to be a very nice donation, but I didn't want to raise funds that way. So again, being outspent 6-1, given that all of my donations were from actual human beings and a couple of unions, and all of hers were the opposite. She had almost no human donors.
Wow.
So I'd say, again, being outspent 6-1, those are some pretty good odds, really, if you look at it.
Yeah, they are. You did an amazing job on that, and congratulations on getting as far as you did. And hopefully you have encouraged others to run as well.
I'm hoping so. I think that there are very strong reasons that more Democrats should step up and run for office around here, because often we don't even have that option. None run.
Yeah, that's a huge problem with Washington's top 2 primary. It's very frustrating to me.
Yeah. But I like I say, I see this demographic shift, and so if anyone in Eastern Washington is listening, please run for office. I think the time is ripe, and with what's going on the national level right now, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, cool. You also run a group out there?
Yeah, the Tri-City Freethinkers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do out there?
All right. Well, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we hold events all throughout the year that range from educational, where we have guest speakers and authors and professors and all kinds of people come and talk about really interesting educational topics. And we also have a lot of opportunities to get together and socialize. We have a drinking skeptically group, and we have a book club, and we have a couple of big parties a year, and we do good works in our community. We've done drives to support everything from animal shelters to homeless teenagers and everything in between.
Cool. I like when groups do that kind of stuff.
I like doing that kind of stuff.
Well, very cool. So if people want to get a hold of you, say through Tri-City Freethinkers, or to just talk to you, how would people do that?
Well, if they want to get a hold of me specifically about, Freethinker related type things, then they could reach me at Jennifer@tricityfreethinkers.org. And then, because I try to keep that stuff separate since it is my nonprofit email. If they want to email me about anything else, I guess I'll just give my email address, because why not? Jen, JENND Goulet, GOULET @gmail.com.
Well, cool. I will put those in the show notes, and I'll try not to set it up so you get too much spam.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this has been great, and I have really enjoyed talking to you. And hopefully, maybe we'll get you back out west again to do another speech or something.
I would really love to do that. It was fun last time.
Yeah, I do plan on doing another rally. I just don't know when.
Wonderful. Well, definitely count me in.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, Jennifer, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Have a great one.
I am an old man, and most people hate me, but I don't like them either, so that makes it all even.
So we have sort of a Potter Award this week.
Wait, where did that come from?
I just decided to throw it in. I can do that. I'm the host.
Well, I told you if I'm going to be on this show, whenever I'm on, there better be a Potter.
Yeah. This is a good one.
Okay.
Fascist-Elect wants to outlaw flag burning.
Oh, God, that again.
So,
Mr. Yeah, okay.
Mr. Trump, I refuse to call him president, tweeted this out just this morning. Nobody should be allowed to burn the American flag. If they do, there must be consequences. Perhaps loss of citizenship or a year in jail.
You mean a year in jail?
A year, yes.
It sounded like you said a year-old.
A year-old. What's a year-old?
Got me.
A euro is some money from somewhere.
But anyways, back to the point. Did this guy not know how to read a constitution?
I don't. As I said this morning, it's above his reading level.
That is true.
I mean, did he even go to school?
No, his problem is he talks out of his butt before he thinks. And nowhere on his body can it think before he speaks, and he just says stupid things. Although, starting to question, is he doing it on purpose?
That's
and
been
maybe he
my
is
theory
thinking
all along.
So it's hard to say. I mean,
should I get into my theory?
Oh no!
Are you sure?
That's a long subject in itself.
Well, it's short.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so my theory is that Donald Trump is a proxy for the GOP. Right?
Uh-huh.
Meaning that he's just a figurehead. There's somebody he could put in place for now until they put the real person in power.
Yeah, but that would be his VP, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That would be Mike Pence, the theocrat.
Uh-huh.
And here's why this makes sense to me. One, he's easy to manipulate, right?
Uh-huh.
He's easy to anger. And we know he's going to do something illegal.
He's already working on it.
Yeah, he's already broken the Constitution twice in one tweet. Okay? he broke the First and Eighth Amendment right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So, Mike Pence, however, is more reserved. He knows what he's doing. He's a true politician.
Right.
Right. He's been through the wash because he did the Indiana RFRA law. He's thick-skinned. He's not going to just up and quit.
Well,
right?
And he doesn't talk like why he's fuming.
Right.
That's Trump's big thing.
Even when he is mad, I can tell when he gets kind of angry. He still is very calm, very collected.
Right.
He's a true politician.
Right.
So my theory is they want Pence in, but they knew they couldn't get Pence elected because he's too unpopular.
Right.
Okay. Then once they get Pence in, he gets to nominate the vice president, and Congress gets to approve it.
Uh-huh.
You get an unelected vice president. The next person in line to become president is an unelected official.
Right.
That's my issue with this. It's a little bit out there. It's a little bit conspiracy theory. But if you put all the pieces together, it makes sense, at least to me.
No, I definitely could see that. I mean, if you look at who Mr. Elect is starting to position into all, put people into certain positions, it kind of would go with that idea as well.
Right.
But,
he's got a bunch of crazies on his cabinet. We haven't even talked about his cabinet for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely strategically putting them in place for something like that.
His cabinet positions so far have been people who are anti whatever the position is supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
So the Secretary of Education, right, is DeVos.
Anti-education.
She's pro-charter school, right, and she's anti-federal education.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The guy they're looking at for Homeland Security is anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, just pretty much everything that you don't want in your Homeland Security guy.
Yeah.
Anti-climate change for the EPA. He wants to put bankers in for the Fed. Not like bankers. He wants to put the CEOs of the banks who caused the problem in those positions.
Right.
So frustrating.
I tell you what, though, after January, it will definitely become very interesting, no matter what goes down.
So here's the problem with what he said today.
Okay.
The Supreme Court has already ruled on this in 1989.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We keep repeating.
Well, in Texas versus Johnson, they ruled 5-4 that flag burning was protected speech. Justice William Brennan agreed with Johnson and held that the flag burning constitutes a form of symbolic speech, that it is protected by the First Amendment. The majority noted that the freedom of speech protects actions that society may find offensive, but society's outrage alone is not justification for suppressing free speech.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying, though. It's not only is it repetitive, but come on, you got to know he knows this.
He has to. There's somebody on his staff is like, you sure you want to tweet that out?
He has not been under a rock all this time. He knows damn well that this was already brought up once before.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even like before the elections, after the elections, my history teacher said that if there is burning of the flags, that there probably will be because of riots and stuff and rebels and stuff. I don't know. But that he asked us if it was free speech and if it was right for people to do so if they wanted to. And almost everyone said that it's free speech, but there's this one kid who's like pro-Trump, and I don't like this kid. I'm gonna just tell you that. But he was just like, no, it's not right. It's disrespecting the country. And I'm like, oh, no.
It doesn't matter if it's disrespectful.
But that was the whole...
It's a right.
It doesn't matter.
That's what my teacher said.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to disrespect, or some people will feel disrespected by it. But at the same time, that is the whole point of why men and women fight for this country, so that we have the rights to do things like this, to say what we need to say.
Right.
That's exactly what my history teacher said.
Excellent teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He's very smart.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Uh-huh.
So this is just another example of a typical Potter Award, and I think he's like the quintessential Potter.
Well, I was going to say...
I don't think he's had a Potter Award yet.
I don't know if he has or not, because I haven't been listening, but he is a Potter on many, many levels, because he constantly says whatever he wants to say and doesn't give two craps about who he, is looking up to him when he says it. He just does what he wants to do.
As a businessman, he was a Potter, right? Now as a politician, he's a Potter.
Exactly.
So no matter what he does, he's a Potter.
Yeah.
He is. Whenever we explain the Potter Award, we can do the, of course, Lionel Barrymore character, right? But we can also say, just look at Trump. He is what a Potter is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a family member who worked for him back in the 80s, and just like so many other people that he screwed on jobs that he hired them for, he did the same thing to the family member. And, that's his idea of business, hire them to do the job and then try and claim bankruptcy or whatever the hell he does to not have to pay them. And he doesn't care. He does not give a crap. It's all about him, himself, and him.
Right.
And that's why he is such a Potter.
Yes.
In so many levels.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the yakking I got today.
Yep.
Really? That's what you got?
All right.
Yeah.
So, Amy doesn't have contact information, so I won't ask her.
Contact information?
Yeah. You haven't been listening to the show. We put out her contact info.
Sorry?
She doesn't have it, so I'm not going to put it out there.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even go on the computer much, so yeah.
I could put out your phone number.
I don't think so.
All right, fine. Kerri.
All right. I'll try and remember and see how it goes. So, you can email me at Kerri@secularyakking.com, and my Twitter account is KRNightmares.
And for me, if anybody wants to say something, just go through Robert.
Yeah, and you can get me, Robert, at Secular Yakking, Twitter at The Motto Guy, Facebook / The Motto Guy.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Very creative.
I am creative.
That's kind of long.
Yeah.
That was actually 3 contacts.
Oh, all in one breath.
Yeah.
See, this proves how much I don't go on the computer.
Anyway, you can contact the show directly, podcast at Secular Yakking, Twitter at Secular Yakking, or Facebook / Secular Yakking. Secular Yakking. I made the damn thing and I can't even say it.
Butchering everything.
All right. Anything else before we sign off?
Nope. I think we're good.
All right. And since Tom's not here, I'll say it. Goodbye, Internet.